Hey guys, welcome to Ignite IQ. We have Maddy here today from Active Performance, and we're going to talk about a very common issue when it comes to endurance sports, and that is red S or reds. Stay tuned, here we go. So Maddy, I am very, very familiar with red S, unfortunately, but for everyone else, let us know, what is red S or reds?
Yeah, so RED stands for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport, and it's characterised by what's called low energy availability. So think of energy availability as the amount of food you eat in a day minus your exercise equals the energy you have available to help with the other physiological functions, I suppose. So when someone has low energy availability, what this means is that they basically don't have enough energy left over to help with those physiological processes. So this could be things like a menstrual cycle or your immune system or your digestive system. All of these things are down-regulated when you're in low energy availability.
Yeah, right, so this is probably why I got sick all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So think about when your phone goes into low power mode. Essentially what it's doing is down-regulating some of the non-essential functions so its battery can last longer. And that's very much the same as what our bodies do when we're not providing it with enough calories to go about the normal physiological functions. It's just down-regulating them. So it's really important to note that REDS or low energy availability doesn't just affect high-performing athletes. It can also affect everyday recreational athletes, and it's actually very common. One study found that 45% of females who are exercising actually are at risk of low energy availability. So as you can see, it's very prevalent.
Yep. So do you have to be losing weight to get reds?
No, so this is a really common misconception. You don't have to be losing weight to get reds. Your weight can very much be staying the exact same and you're in low energy availability. And this is because of that downshift in those physiological functions. Your body now requires less energy, so it needs less food, meaning that you can be staying the exact same weight but still be in low energy availability. And this is why people who are potentially overweight or obese often are not diagnosed with reds, because it's just a common misconception to look at people who are at a lower weight and say, oh, they must have low energy availability.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what happened to me. I sustained weight for a very long period of time, but every system of my body was shutting down. And then eventually in the back end of it, I started putting on weight. with little to no exercise. So it's pretty wild.
And that's just because the amount of calories your body needs at resting is a lot less than it previously was, which is why it's so important to work with a dietitian to help build that back up to where it was.
So from my experience, there's a hell of a lot of symptoms that show up with red S. I counted over 20 of my own personal symptoms. So let us know, what are some of the consequences or what are some of the symptoms when it comes to red S?
Yeah, so there are many symptoms of red S or low energy availability. The main one being fatigue and reduced performance, getting frequently injured or having an injury that just is hanging around, not recovering. You could have brittle nails or hair falling out, things like that. You could be getting sick all the time. You could have reduced cognition, so a lack of productivity or poor memory. In females, a lack of menstrual cycle or irregular periods. That's usually a good sign that you're under fueling. There's so many different things that can happen to people. So
you can kind of get lost a bit too, and that's kind of the boat that we went down. I had so many tests and went to so many doctor's appointments and things like that, and because a lot of these symptoms, they're just everywhere. Like it can be for allergies, it can be for mold, like all this sort of stuff. There's so many things that it could be.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it's important to work with a sports dietitian, because not only will we look at your symptoms, but we'll also look at your overall diet, your training load, if it's matching any nutrient deficiencies, things like that. And that's how we can make an informed decision to whether you have low energy availability or reds. I suppose in terms of consequences of reds, so the big one is an altered metabolic function, so the amount of calories you need at rest is a lot less. Also, like I've mentioned, menstrual cycle disturbances, which can impact fertility down the line. And it's important to note that people who have amenorrhea are 2 to 4 times more likely to get stress fractures, so it's pretty bad. Also, bone health in people with low energy availability or REDS is decreased, so risk of osteoporosis, things like that. Heart health can be impacted. Reduced protein synthesis, so this can lead to like tendon issues, things like that. There's really a whole range of different, more serious consequences that can happen if we don't address it pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it's not just about the race results at the end of the day, it's overall health and well-being.
Yes, it really impacts your overall health and well-being. Yeah.
All right, so what actually causes REDS?
Yeah, so in simple terms, it's just caused by underfueling, whether that is from overtraining or not eating enough. The main thing you want to look out for is what's causing you to underfuel. So it can be due to a number of reasons. It can be due to an increase in your training load, and then you're not also increasing your nutrition to match that. That's probably the most common one we see in endurance athletes. It could be because there's some disordered eating behavior going on. There could be a fear of weight gain. That's a really common one. So people potentially unintentionally underfuel with that. It could be due to someone having like ADHD or something and forgetting to eat, low appetite. There's a whole range of things it could be.
Yeah. I've had plenty of conversations with a lot of athletes, and there's one that's very quite common, and it's those that want to lose weight while also training at peak period of time. So it's potentially putting their body under so much stress, trying to lose weight even though they're doing all this training.
Yeah, it's that's probably one of the most common things I see, and that's why it's so important to work with a professional. If that is a goal, you're allowed to want to change your body composition. It's just about knowing how much you need to be eating to support your training and still achieving that goal at the same time. It's very hard to do without accidentally slipping into low energy availability.
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like I know a fair bit, about what I should be doing, and I think it was quite shocking for me to sort of go back and look at those actual figures and see, when I thought I was eating a lot, it just turned out I was eating nowhere near enough for the amount that I was training.
Yeah,
and that must be so common.
Yeah, people just don't realise the sheer amount of food you actually need. Especially in endurance sports. You're burning so many calories on a day-to-day basis, which requires a lot of fuel to support that training, but also to recover from the training. Yeah,
and if I think about my racing season last year, I know that majority of the time when I was training, I felt like death, and I was having so many problems, and then I would then taper, leading into a race, freshen up, my calorie, expenditure obviously drops through that week, and then you come out and you feel okay or somewhat okay on race day.
Finally meeting your energy requirements.
But in the meantime, like, you weren't unfortunately able to get the most out of training, so you end up not doing as well as you could have anyway.
100%. Fueling correctly goes a long way for performance. It's really important to get it right.
So how does one actually know that they're eating enough then?
So the best thing you can do is just look at the symptoms you're getting on a day-to-day basis. If you are feeling really fatigued all the time, it could be a sign that you are underfueling. Also, on hard training days, looking to have half your main meal being carbohydrate-based is a good way to fuel on a day-to-day basis. You could always download something like MyFitnessPal and sort of track for a week to see if you are hitting the right amount of calories. I wouldn't recommend someone do that long term, but as a short term sort of guide, it's always a good idea just to get a rough sort of guide of what you need on a day-to-day basis.
It can potentially come, I guess, a little bit toxic in a way, maybe.
Yeah, for a lot of people, especially endurance athletes, it can become a bit of an obsession, tracking your calories every single day sort of thing. I like to just say it's a tool you can use to make sure you are fueling adequately, but sort of just getting an idea for it and then letting the app go.
So potentially maybe you could use that in different parts of your season. So you might be base building to start and work out, those first few weeks when training is light, what's your expenditure there, and what is it like in the absolute peak of training when you're flogging yourself and smashing, big hours?
100%. Also, like the difference between a rest day and a training day should just be your pre-training food and your during training food. That's the only thing that changes from a rest day to an active day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk us through this plate portioning guide.
Yes. So on a hard day of training, so that would be something like over an hour, you want to have, as I said, half your plate with carbohydrates, okay? So then a quarter of your plate protein and a quarter of your plate veggies. On moderate training days, so around that 40 to 60 minute mark, a third of your plate carbohydrates is a good rough guide. And then a quarter of your plate of your lean protein and 40% of your plate being fruit and veggies. And then on an easy training day, this is when you really want to get in your veggies, all those micronutrients and fibers. So half your plate would be veggies or fruits, and then quarter protein and quarter carbohydrates on those easy rest days.
Right.
Yeah, that's just a rough sort of idea. People can go off on a day-to-day basis without needing to track their calories and things like that.
Awesome. So I imagine for a lot of people, it's just like me, you feel like you are eating quite a lot already as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what's some ideas that we can just add those little bits of calories in for people who already feel like they're already eating quite a lot?
Yeah, so something that I see a lot with athletes is trying to eat really healthy, unprocessed foods on a day-to-day basis, but when the reality is, like, you can't fit that amount of volume in your day. You need to utilize processed foods around training to hit the right amount of calories and make it achievable. If you are trying to aim for all these whole foods, you're likely going to be getting so much fiber that you're getting digestive issues and things like that, just with the amount of calories an endurance athlete actually needs. So that's where things like having liquid calories comes in. So something like a Powerade to get more carbohydrates in, utilizing things like smoothies where you can put like peanut butter and oats and nuts in to bulk up those calories. Adding more sauces and cheese to foods, things like that. That's a really easy way that's going to have a small amount of volume for a large amount of calories.
I know in Canada they love poutine, which is like hot chips with gravy and cheese and melted cheese all over it. Maybe not a
maybe not a pre-run snack,
no,
potentially
right.
like post-race.
Post-race,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, just think about like little things you can add to food that are going to be calorie dense. So yeah, sauces, creams, cheese, nut butters, things like your healthy fats, so avocado, nuts and seeds, things like that. They're very calorie dense for a very low volume. So thinking about ways you can get those sorts of things in your diet. Also dried fruit, so it's got a lower amount of fiber and water, but a high amount of carbs and calories. So things like that are really easy to add into like a breakfast cereal or something like that. And it's going to really bulk those calories up and carbs up without adding too much volume to your stomach.
Yeah, for sure. I know my favourite protein shake. It's an icy pole lemonade one, and you mix it with water and keep it nice and cool. I take it with me in a little esky for post running, and it's literally just like drinking a lemonade afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's got a great source of protein and carbs and everything in it. So that I find that's really easy to get the fuel in without having to smash down protein bars and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy, because a lot of the time people have a very low appetite after training, so something sweet that's gonna like quench your thirst is always a great shout to get that protein in for sure. Yeah.
But we certainly got deep into things there. I think that was such a great chat. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today and chatting. And hopefully that helps a lot of you guys out there. And of course, if you do need some help, and I highly recommend it because I certainly did, come and chat to Maddy, and you can do that via Zoom or in person, and just contact the guys at Active Performance and book yourself in and get yourself sorted, because this stuff is super important, as we talked about, not only for performance but for your overall long-term health. So thanks, Maddy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yep, definitely anyone who thinks they might have low energy availability or REDs, come and see me. I'd be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you would like to join us on the Skool community now, Skool community is our awesome online platform which anyone can join. It's got on-demand workouts, educational videos on a whole bunch of running, triathlon and health and nutrition. We have live check-ins, we've got Q&A sessions, We've got challenges. We've got a whole bunch of stuff on there. We've got running training plans as well. So if you're keen to join us on there, the standard membership is free, and you can find the link below in the comment section down here. That's it for me. Thanks for joining in, and if you want to get a whole bunch of running tips, keep up to date with what's happening in Ignite News here, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel, and so you can keep yourself updated, and we look forward to catching you next time.